I don't want to have to like watch my 401k get vaporized so that Trump can lose the next election. Like, I want people to pay attention. Stop putting these people into power.
Yeah.
I don't know.
By the way, some people take the exact opposite. I say some people. I'm smiling because being ironic here, but the exact opposite interpretation that you make and that I make. And Exhibit A of that is Gavin Newsom, who the governor of California, who is preparing to run, obviously, for president, or at least testing the waters. And his strategy is to embrace the MAGA movement and find common ground with it. He's the exact opposite of what you're saying, pretty much guaranteeing that we will have these cycles because he's normalizing the insanity of this cult. And I'm watching the Gavin Newsom experiment with a mix of anger and curiosity. Like how it unfolds, how far he'll take it. Who has he had on the show so far? Steve Bannon, Charlie Kirk. I think that's it. I may have missed another right winger. Bill Maher's doing the same thing. He's writing his career by sucking up to MAGA. And I don't know. What do you think of Gavin Newsom's strategy, David?
Well, let me just share another piece of Gen Z slang with you, okay? Which is called the ick.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like somebody does something, and it turns you off to them like so decisively. And you're like, you gave me the ick when you did that. The first time I ever heard Gavin Newsom speak in public, the guy gave me the ick, Yeah. Like there's just something like, obviously, do you remember during the first Trump administration, there was this lawyer, I can't remember his name. Like this lawyer like became very famous overnight, Michael something or other. He was like very handsome. And everybody in the resistance was like, yeah, man, this guy. And I was like, that guy's a slime ball. I can tell you that, like with great.
Yeah.
And that's always the vibe I've gotten from Gavin Newsom.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he's just, the hair is too perfect. Like he's obviously craven. The whole French laundry thing during the pandemic was, I think, a real sign about who this guy actually is, right? Which is like, yeah, I'm gonna lock Californians down, and I'm gonna dine with my friends at the nicest restaurant in the state. Yeah. And he is just like, it's like, talk about drawing the wrong conclusion from the past election. There's a segment of the center left that is still stuck on the idea that like if we just like threw like trans women under the bus, that we would start winning elections. And it's like, you're in the wrong place, Gavin. You're starting from the wrong assumptions about what's going to be a winning formula for us. Like, do you know any independent voters sitting around being like, I would vote for the Democrats if they just started having Charlie Kirk on their podcast? And I don't think those voters are out there, personally. And so Newsom, who had been like positioning himself as this like resistance hero, like dating back to the first Trump administration, just really unmasked himself and just showed his ass in a really clear way. Like this guy's not our ally. He's just a craven opportunist who thinks that the lane that he's going to occupy in the 2028 nomination, which is obviously what he wants, the lane he's going to occupy is like, turncoat against the progressives. And that's not going to get the job done. Like, it's not going to get the nomination. It's also not the right answer to what we are going through at the moment.
Yeah.
You don't join these authoritarian lunatics and like, kind of be like, well, what if we did persecute trans people? Like, well, let's give it a shot. This is the wrong time for that. It would always be the wrong time for that, but it's like, it's morally reprehensible, but it's also politically wrong. So that's what I think about Gavin Newsom.
That's a great riff. And I'm watching, like I said, we'll be watching. All right, I'm going to close with your take on this ongoing. I don't know if we've had the conversation about allowing the reporter in on the top secret conversation before war was launched. So much has happened, and it's kind of been lost. There's a follow-up of sorts. It's sometimes I can't believe this stuff's happening in my lifetime, but Trump had a meeting this week in the White House with Laura Loomer, the far right influencer. I guess that's what they call her. And what a mean human being Laura Loomer is, to put it mildly. So she came to Donald Trump. Supposedly he had distanced himself from her, which I had to laugh whenever Donald Trump supposedly distanced himself from like the real haters, the real MAGA ones in the bunch. And then even though he supposedly distanced himself from her, she was granted access to a meeting with him in the White House, and she came in with a list of names of people who worked for the National Security Council, who she said were disloyal to Trump and had to be fired. And lo and behold, he fired them. And meanwhile, he hasn't fired Michael Waltz, who is the national security advisor, the head of the NSC, who was the guy who apparently invited the journalist in on the chat before they launched the bombs against the Houthis. So, David, wow. Trying to figure out what this says about how Donald Trump operates and what are the dynamics of MAGA right now? Like, does this show that Donald Trump every now and then has to be even more insane than he is just to keep the cultists happy? Please explain the dynamics of MAGA. Go ahead.
Man, it's like every day they do something that would have consumed like a 6-month-long scandal in 2014. You know what I mean? Like the dynamics of Trump world right now are that he's not playing a bit. You know what I mean? Like this isn't 14-dimensional chess. What's happening in Trump world right now is that the president of the United States is being advised by and has like a bunch of theories that he got from like a bunch of like Nazi podcasters who would have been like laughed out of every room in the country 20 years ago. You know, like the extreme far right lunatic fringe. You know, I'm talking like Pizzagate people, you know, like birthers, like all this stuff, like all the crazy like conspiracy theory fads that have swept through the far right. You know, QAnon, all this stuff. Those are the people that are advising the president of the United States, and the president of the United States is making policy and personnel decisions based on the delusions of crackpots, right? There are no serious people left in the room, right? Like Laura Loomer is like, has literally no business being anywhere near the president of the United States, like let alone obviously secretly being one of his top advisors. Like she has no business entering the room where people on the National Security Council are sitting, let alone like being basically in charge of firing them. The fact that this woman, who is certifiably insane, right, in a way that like, you know, even like the worst Republicans in the country in 2015, the worst elected Republicans in the country in 2015 were like, you know, gods compared to this woman. You know, like I can't emphasize enough that she's crazy. There is a crazy person making security decisions inside the White House. And the few serious Republicans who are left in the world are outnumbered like 15-1 inside this administration. And they're being cleaned out like one by one. People who don't just like have literally no principles other than loyalty to Donald Trump are getting cleaned out. And they're getting cleaned out by people who believed the QAnon conspiracy. You know what I mean? They're getting cleaned out by people that think vaccines cause autism. They're getting cleaned out by just the worst people of the 21st century are running the country. That's what that means. And it's really scary. It's really scary that she's been given this kind of role. It's scarier that the institutional Republican Party has accepted it. You know, it's one thing, it's like, wow, we let a lunatic in the door. He's the president now. Boy, what are we going to do? That's scary enough, right, that this happened, that the American people did it. But what continues to disturb me and unsettle me is that none of this has been a bridge too far for Republicans in Congress. They're like, yeah, sure, it sounds great. Like, yes, definitely Laura Loomer should be making our personnel decisions inside the National Security Council. Like, that alone is like 25th Amendment worthy. You know what I mean? Like, just the presence of this woman in our security like in any kind of significant role in the national security system is like a reason to remove him from office and never let him near it again. And it's just one person of the like thousands of lunatics that have been let into this administration who are running the country. So I'm not a particularly big fan of that. I did, you know, like in a Saturday Night Live sense, obviously the whole scandal was quite funny in a stupid way, but like it's the, you know, the implications are not good. And it's like, you know, obviously the hypocrisy is the first thing. It's like, you know, we had like an entire presidential election revolve around email security practices of the Secretary of State from 2008. And these guys are just like texting war plans to each other on a commercial app. And we're all just supposed to accept that this is okay. And it's the shamelessness is just like, it's just taken for granted at this point, right? It's not even worth remarking on.
No, it is worth remarking. I cannot emphasize it is worth remarking on.
No, I know.
I don't stop remarking on it. I just have to say, we'll close with this. I hammered the theme of the shameless hypocrisy, the double standards, and I will continue to do so, David, because if there will be a hope, okay, we talk about, you know, if instead of just going from one election cycle to another, if there's hope where there's some coming like a logical discourse after this Trump era has ended, if that happens, that's predicated on believing the essential principles that people articulate. And if people continually tailor their principles to meet whatever immediate political crisis they're facing, and everybody does that to a certain degree, but I'm just talking about it all, just across the board way, then you cannot have any kind of legitimate discourse in this country. And that's why I keep teasing the Joe Rogans of the world, who built their reputations on liberty and free expression, to please show up while citizens are getting dragged, or non-citizens, really doesn't matter, just picked up on the streets of our cities, put into unmarked vans by masked men, and then sent to deportation camps because what? Who knows why? They don't even give them read the charges. So I hope you never fall prey to cynicism in terms of like, well, nobody pays attention when I point out the utter shameless hypocrisy, but you have to. Yeah, I believe you have to. Go ahead. I'll let you get the closing.
Frustrating, but it's like after 10 years of this guy to just have to feel like you're starting from scratch again and again and again. Like, do you guys not see what's really happening here? How can you not see this? You know, but yeah, no, you're right. I mean, obviously we have to keep hammering it. That's the politics of the moment. I mean, Democrats have to hammer it. You know, we need more Cory Booker stunts. Like, we need that stuff every day of the week. Ken Martin, the chair of the DNC, just announced today that they're doing something I've been like telling my intro to comparative politics students that I've wanted to see happen here for like 20 years, which is basically forming like a shadow government. You know, they're going to appoint like shadow cabinet secretaries in the Democratic Party, which is what they do in the UK. And that's actually a great idea, right? Like, Democrats need to find a way to have their responses to Trump and their criticisms of Trump. They have to find a way to get those things in front of people's eyeballs, front and center, for the next 2 years, for the next 4 years, right? And you have to pace yourself. Obviously, you can't hold the Senate floor for 24 hours every day. But like, we need more of that. We need more of that fighting spirit, because that's the only thing that's going to get this done.
I agree with you. We'll close a little optimism. I'll agree with you absolutely. And you know, we could have voted for Cory Booker in 2019. He was running against Biden, but no, we went with the old guy. I love old people. I'm old, but goddamn. Anyway, that was the decision then. All right, David, that's as close to an optimistic viewpoint on our show as we've had in a while. So that's as good a spot as any to close it down. Thank you very much. I'll talk to you in a couple of weeks. All right.
Sounds great, Ben. I'm sure it'll be a really calm and restful couple of weeks. But just enjoy the tranquility of American prosperity.
Yes, I will. That's David Faris. I also want to thank producer Chris. He does an outstanding job, and I know David agrees with me. Say, hey, producer Chris, give yourself a raise. Take it out of petty cash. Peace and love, everybody.